Hi guys, so Lord Frost has once again blamed the EU for the mistakes of his and Boris Johnson's own doing when it came to the withdrawal agreement. Like a person who didn't read the fine print of the mobile phone contract, then went on holiday and returned to a huge bill due to roaming charges, the Brexit Minister is saying that the EU is at fault here, not him or his government. Frost was speaking recently to the British-Irish Association, and he released a statement following this meeting onto the UK government website. This is a bit of a change, I might add. He, up to now, generally communicates to the public via the pro-Tory Telegraph, which is usually behind a paywall. I will leave a link in the description of this video, of course. So he opens by blaming the previous government for leaving him a bad hand of cards to deal with the European Union. He's blaming Theresa May for agreeing parts of the protocol which left him in a tight spot. It is funny, as when they signed the eventual agreement, they promoted it as being better than Theresa May's and being a clear shift away from the previous government's negotiating position. Now Frost is suggesting that his hands were tied in some way. However, he doesn't actually explain how, which to me means they were not. He's just lying. Something which is very important to highlight, and he does it again in this article, is to praise the Irish government while criticising the European Union. On numerous occasions he speaks about how Dublin is willing to engage and show flexibility when Brussels was not. This is not David Frost playing the diplomat. This is him attempting to drive a wedge between Ireland and the rest of the EU. Something Frost tries to do, and he has done it on numerous occasions, is to sell the idea that the protocol was negotiated between the UK and Ireland at times. This was not the case. The protocol had input from the Irish government, but it was an agreement between the EU and the UK, not Dublin and London. Frost also suggests that while everyone pulled together, it was possible to agree a trade deal following the withdrawal agreement in record time, though he doesn't explicitly include the EU in any praise here. Now we get to the problems. He starts off by suggesting that the Northern Ireland Protocol is coming apart. Let me be very clear about this. The Northern Ireland Protocol is part of the withdrawal agreement, which was negotiated by Frost and sold to the public as an oven-ready deal by Boris Johnson. Frost said it was the greatest thing since sliced bread up to the moment it was to be implemented. Lord Frost, who on numerous occasions, both in his articles to the public via the Telegraph and select committees, has criticised the EU's stance without giving specific examples of how they are being difficult. In this article he said this is not about EU bashing. Funny how neither Boris Johnson or Frost have ever called out any EU bashing by their party in the media or in Parliament. Anyway, he then defends Brexit, saying, and I quote, "Brexit is not a thing in itself. It is not a choice to live in permanent confrontation with our friends and neighbours. Rather, it is a first stage, a necessary gateway through which this country has to pass in order to give us freedom, if we make the right choices, to free up and liberalise our economy domestically, to restore genuine political choice to our electorate, and to rebuild the country from some of the distortions created by EU membership." Lies, but we knew that. Freedom. We always knew that Parliament was sovereign. Free up the economy. This is about lowering standards when it comes to products and food. This is about removing hard-fought worker protections. Restore genuine political choice. Are you frigging kidding me here? And then rebuild our country. Brexit has done more damage to the economy in 6 months than the pandemic in a year and a half. And Brexit pretty much is permanent if the Tories stay in power. Frost then goes on to say how there are disagreements between the UK and the EU over the protocol. No, this is another lie. The EU has no problem with the protocol. They have never said that they have. The British government is the one complaining about the agreement that they signed and sold to the public. This is another attempt to trick the British people into thinking that both sides have a problem with the protocol so it can be renegotiated. He also suggests that the protocol is undermining peace in Northern Ireland, but this is not the case. The protocol means that there is no border on the island of Ireland. It is actually protecting businesses there from the worst effects of Brexit. Northern Ireland supermarkets are not empty. Ones in Great Britain are. Later in the article, Frost again suggests disagreement along with problems, but refuses to provide any examples. David Frost then talks about the command paper and how it's needed to fix the problems of the protocol. Once again, no examples given. He then contradicts himself by saying that the Northern Ireland Protocol in all its dimensions protects the Good Friday Agreement, which it does, but suggests that it prioritises the EU single market, which it doesn't. The Northern Ireland Protocol was a solution to protect the Good Friday Agreement and the single market. Remember, Northern Ireland did not vote for Brexit, and the EU didn't want Brexit either. It was a compromise. But once again, why didn't Frost realise this at the time of the negotiations, and why didn't he refuse to sign the agreement if he had such problems with it? There are only two possibilities here. Either he didn't understand what he was signing, or he didn't care. And you can't blame the EU for that. He then waffles on about how the protocol is the problem, not the implementation of it. Again, not providing any examples of problems. Incidentally, the EU has highlighted how the UK is not implementing the protocol. They've given the example of data sharing. The UK government agreed to share live data with the EU via an electronic system. This has not happened yet. I don't know what excuse David Frost has given for this. I wish someone in the media would ask him. Another example is the lack of permanent structures in Northern Ireland. The British government agreed to have them in place by June. We're now in September and they haven't been built. What has Frost said about this? We don't know because nobody has asked him. He of course brings Article 16 of the Northern Ireland Protocol into this by suggesting that the threshold to invoke it has been met. But he hasn't explained why he hasn't triggered it, only suggesting that the government is willing to work through it. A real case of passive aggression here. Frost also suggests that while people say that the EU has made concessions, it's really the British government that have done so, by allowing a foreign entity to operate within its border. What he's talking about here is checks for the single market taking place in Northern Ireland. The EU had originally wanted to carry out the checks itself, but Frost's government refused and told Brussels they would carry out the work, which they haven't been fully doing. The EU, in my opinion, made a big mistake here by trusting Boris Johnson and David Frost, but their hands were tied in a way. He also says in this piece that the EU's goal is full compliance with the protocol, but in reality they just want to punish the UK over minor issues. Once again, no examples given and no evidence to back up the claim. The reason the EU is taking legal action against the UK is because the British government isn't fulfilling its side of the agreement. They have extended the grace periods without consultation and blame the EU via their mouthpieces in the media. He closes by saying that this is a challenge, but if we all work together, we can build a better relationship. Complete tosh. The UK government's position for years has been to pour poison into the ears of the public when it comes to the European Union and EU member states. Telling the public one day that they want to work with their European friends, then the next day suggesting that member states want to break up the UK. They told the public that the EU don't want the UK to leave and are using their might to keep Britain in, while in the next breath suggesting that the EU is about to collapse and needs the UK to pay its bills. Frost and Johnson agreed to the withdrawal agreement which contains the protocol, but not just that, they sold it to the public as a panacea, a solution to all problems that Britain is facing. Stuck on an NHS waiting list? Get Brexit done. Your school has a leaky roof? Get Brexit done. Your kid can't find a job? Get Brexit done. Too many immigrants? Get Brexit done. It was the lie of all lies, and now since it was put into place in January, both Frost and his boss Boris Johnson have criticised it. They say it's no longer fit for purpose. It needs to be renegotiated. The wrong people have been in charge at the wrong time. They have no idea what they're doing and agree to things under the impression that they can just ignore it later on. I've said this before, the Brexiteers used Northern Ireland as a tool and then threw it away when it had served its purpose. They are now rummaging in the dirt for it as they think it can be used once again. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think about all of this. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot. I want to say a big thank you to all of my patrons. You ensure that this channel continues to exist. I'm eternally grateful for all of your support. If you join Patreon, you will receive instant access to our Discord server, where we have both audio and video chats. You can chat with me and other patrons, where we discuss important and non-important issues. Becoming a patron per month costs about the same as a large coffee, so why not check it out?